Hey y'all, I'm
Powered by
Kimberly,
Riverside
and
FM.
this is the Frolicking Truth, a soft space for Black women who are tired, brilliant, and ready to heal. Here, joy meets justice. We calm our Black ass nervous systems, we unmask, and we leave behind whatever that is trying to kill us. You're seen here, you're safe here, and you don't have to do this alone.
Hey, y'all, come on in, find a comfortable spot and take a seat. I'm grateful to have you here with me for episode 10 of the Frolicking Truth podcast for Black women who are tired, brilliant, and ready to heal, where joy meets justice and nervous systems get free. It is okay if you do not identify with any of those descriptors, you are still welcome here, okay? I just ask that you come in a spirit to learn, support, and listen. Right off at the top, I'm gonna ask y'all to go ahead and like the video, okay? Just go ahead and like it. I know you ain't heard me say nothing yet, but that's all right. Just go ahead and like it, all right? Because that helps the algorithm. It's a free way to show support. And I do hope that you will leave some comments. Tell me what is resonating with you, especially those of you who are watching a replay. Now, if you're watching this during the live premiere, I need you to come join us in the chat. We're in there, we're talking, the community is here. You can ask questions, you can talk to other people, you can give your live reactions as you're listening. So please do come hang out. If you're watching this during the live premiere, come hang out in the chat with us. If you're watching during the replay, your assignment is to make comments when things resonate so that I know what to go back and clip. Okay, that helps me. That helps me a lot. All right. So I just did an extensive auntie check-in with my inner circle. Those are the folks that are on the VIP list, the folks that are part of my Patreon. We just had a whole situation before this that I was telling them about my day and my morning routine and all of that. So I'm not going to get back into that. I might release a couple clips so that y'all can get a little taste. But it was pretty powerful. I'll say that. I wanted to go ahead and do my official auntie check-in. So I saw last week, I called it the auntie update. Child, I don't be knowing what to call it. So, number one, I want to make a confession. Okay. I had to place an Amazon order. And in that Amazon order, I had to get me some incense, y'all, and some hair products. Okay. I used my last little corner of Donna's recipe that I had, and I had to get me some more. All right. Because I haven't yet figured out how I'm going to make my own products, but I did buy some Castile soap that I'm going to use to start my experimentation. Y'all think about me over here as like mad scientist. Okay. Like I'm over here thinking about all kinds of concoctions and things to be able to make because I want to know what's in my stuff. Like I'm at that point that I need to know what's in this and where this come from. The other day I was eating some tilapia and I was like, man, I wish that I knew how to fish and that I knew where to go to fish because I want my fish to come straight from the water. Like I want to see where it was at. Even though I don't really want to do the scaling process. Like I've only been fishing one time in my life. Just another confession. I did catch a lot of things, but I didn't put nothing on no hook and I didn't take nothing off no hook. I was just like, I put it out there and then I was like, yay! And then I was like, what I do with it now? But yeah, that's the only time I've ever fished in my life. But I'm at a place right now where I'm really like very trying to be much more intentional about what I put in my body and on my body. I know it's a comment talking about tilapia isn't real. I know. But right now, I have to do it until I'm able to have my own fish farm. Okay, it's a gradual process over here. So, but anyway, here what it's called is mohara is what the fish is called actually, but they liken it to tilapia. But anyway, I need to know where my things is coming from. All right, is my point. Get out, hey, get off of me. They in the comments. Relax, okay? relax. I am just trying to like make different things, and I'm like infusing oils, and I want to do like whipped body butters and like all of that. I'm ready to be in the lab is what I'm saying. I'm ready to be in the lab. So I know you can probably make it in your kitchen. I know. I that's the plan. That is the plan. If y'all think about, so oh my God, my brain is in so many different directions. So y'all may or may not know, I used to have a talk show for 6 years on a platform called Beautiful Brown Girls. And one of my shows was called Brown Girl Boss. And on Brown Girl Boss, I used to interview brown women, black and brown women across the US, but also abroad sometimes, and just highlight what they did. And I had a chance to interview Melissa Butler from the Lip Bar. There was another lady, oh my God, I can't remember her name right now. Jesus. She has whipped body butters. I want to say her name is Layla, but I can't remember. But anyway, the common theme that they had is that it started in their kitchen. Melissa Butler, when she started making her first lipsticks with the Lip Bar, she started in her kitchen. Hold on. What is the name of these products? Here it is. Black girl, long hair. What is this lady's name? What is her name? I knew I was gonna find it. Thank you, Christian. Christian is my brain person, my memory brain person. So he helps me to remember the things. Her name is Layla. I knew I wasn't crazy. Let me put some respect on my brain, people. But anyway, the name of her products, it was Black Girl Long Hair Marketplace, and she had Whip Body Butters. So she also started in her kitchen. So that's kind of what I'm on right now. Is I really feel like I'm about to start making different products. And it started with my hair. So I had washed my hair last night. Also, y'all, my hair's name is Raina. Raina as in queen. Okay. I don't know how that goes either. I don't know which fingers it is. I am so old and out of touch. Oh my God. Somebody young help me. Anyway, I washed my hair last night and I used the last little corner of Donna's recipe. So then I was like, I need to re up. I need to go ahead and get in the lab and make some things. So that's why I made the Amazon order, bringing it all full circle. Okay. And also I will say that there is nothing wrong. I don't believe there is anything wrong with patronizing a business for your basic needs, right? Which were that was the rules that was given out with the boycott, right? If you still got to go to Walmart to get your basic needs, even though I don't know why Walmart is the place that was chosen, because but the same way Amazon. I believe that if you are using it in order to further things, like you're getting raw materials or you're getting something that you otherwise is a necessity that you don't have access to, and you are using that as a way to be able to get it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that what we need to cut down on is the frivolous shit and just buying stuff and getting addicted to Prime and like having stuff show up the next day and 24-hour inconvenience and like all of that. I think we need to release ourselves from that. Okay. But I don't want y'all to think that I'm condemning you if you're using any of it. It really, for me, is about divesting from capitalism. And I'll talk about that in a little bit later. All right. So I just want to put that in. But anyway, I was dancing the other day and blowing bubbles because my morning routine very much like gets me gradually like up and going. So by the time I sit down and I got my tea and I'm like ready to open the curtains and let the day in and all of that, I have a little playlist. So right now the song that I've been listening to is Chuck Mangione, Feels So Good. I don't know if y'all know that song, but it's a jazz track. And man, it be getting me going. So the other day I was dancing to that, and then I was dancing to Mr. Magic by Grover Washington. Now, I don't know if y'all know this song, because this is a line dance that we used to do in New Orleans and probably still do. We call it the bus stop. We learned it in PE and everything. After the Chuck Mangione song, the Mr. Magic song came on, so I was dancing. And then I was like, let me go out here and blow some bubbles. So then I graced the people with some bubbles and just a nice little opportunity to laugh and smile and all of that. But it made me feels so peaceful, because when you blow bubbles, you have to breathe. Like, you have to breathe in, and you have to have like a concentrated breath. So it's not just right, but you very much have to, and that process makes you slow down. So it helps your nervous system regulate. So I had been meaning to blow bubbles so many days, and I had not done it. And I forgot because it was in my purse. So it was like out of sight, out of mind. So yesterday I made an intentional decision to blow bubbles, and it made me so happy inside. It really does bring me joy. And so I was doing the bus stop, and then I was blowing bubbles, and I was just like, today is a good day. Like, I'm loving this so much. And then the other thing, so from Amazon, I had finally bought myself some clothes that actually fit. The clothes that I have with me are the clothes that I brought with me for the most part when I left the US in 2021. That has been almost 4 years ago. Along the way, I have bought a couple things like from H&M. So like some tank tops, usually the tank tops that I wear, and the jersey shorts that I have. That's kind of like my everyday uniform. And then I had some leggings from Amazon. All of that's too big. Okay. I have gone from a 2X to a medium. And that's wild to me, because how? But also, I am in a place with better food, more access to fresh food, and I'm not stressed the hell out, because retaining all that cortisol is what makes it difficult for us to lose weight. So it really, in essence, is kind of just coming off because I'm not doing too many things. But one of the things I did start doing, y'all seen that squat challenge on the TikToks? What's the song? I don't even know the song that is to right now, but you do 4 squats. Booty work. That's what it is. It'd be like summon and a sun and a summon and a, let me see your booty work, 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 booty work. And like, then so it's like squats, then you pose for 20, then you do 7 squats. I've been doing that, not every day, maybe every other day, but I've been doing that because I told y'all I've been working on my Colombian booty, and I'm really, trying to make sure that I do as much as I can. Also, I really don't like to exercise. I would prefer to dance, which is why I was dancing and doing line dances, because by the way, that is exercise. So anyway, y'all know I used to be dancing on the internet in my drawers. Because this was in 2022 when I was in Mexico City. And it was because I like finally had just said, I think I realized what my self talk was looking like and sounded like. And it just wasn't up to par. Like, it just really was very not good and not positive. And I made this decision, and I was like, I'm going to love myself. And you know what else happened? Because I was dancing to the internet, on the internet, to Lizzo. And what she had, that song, It's About Damn Time. So I had really like sat down and listened to the words. She had another song that was called You're Special. That album, I don't know what the name of it was, but that album that she made right after COVID, that was a powerful album. And it was very much like an anthem. And I'm not necessarily a pop girly for real like that, but it was striking a chord in my spirit. So it had got me to dancing on the internet in my drawers. And it was a good time. It's this phase that you go through where you be like, hey, I don't even care no more. Y'all finna get all of this. You finna get these roles, this gut, all. I don't care. I don't care. This is who I am, and whatever. You can feel however you want to feel about it. It's really liberating. It's really liberating. So I'll put a couple clips in here so that you all can see what that used to look like for me. So anyway, so that is my auntie check-in. That is what I have been up to. Those are the things, the here, there's, and the so's. Now, child, I want to get into this truth is segment because it's a lot that we need to talk about that has been happening. The title of today's episode is Capitalism versus Community. It's time to choose. I always be feeling like I'm about to do a sermon when I talk about the title, but for real. So, a lot has been going on in regards to things in all arenas. I'm talking all of the arenas, okay? in healthcare and education and housing and immigration. Like it's just been so much that has been going on. And just the other day, there was a flood in Texas where I think the death toll is up to maybe 100 people. I believe 91 was the last concrete number I saw, but I might have heard that it was up to 100 people. Within that number were 20 little girls, apparently, that were at a camp or something. Like, and there are people on the internet who are very much celebrating and being like, that's what they get. Their parents voted for that, so that's what they get. And it's really weird because how are we so dehumanizing folks that we are celebrating children dying? I don't, that's what we doing? We on that? Like, I don't, the kids didn't ask for this. They didn't ask. Even if those children have been programmed to start spewing the same type of rhetoric that their parents may or may not have voted for, the children are innocent in this. So it really made me start wondering, like, what is, why, how did we get here where we are not thinking about people as people and not thinking about human beings as human beings? Like, I'm just not really following like how that's happening. And it brought me to, y'all know I love a good rabbit hole and a deep dive, child. And I have been deep diving into really understanding what certain words mean. So let me be clear. My degrees are in biology and education. Okay. Those are the areas that I have studied and the different places that I would consider myself to be an expert in. Where I am not an expert in is in anything that really had to do with social studies, be honest with you. So history and economics, especially things like economics, I don't necessarily understand it, but I never took classes on it. It's not what I studied. So I've been in this process of taking different crash courses. There's a YouTube page called Crash Course, and I've been on there like crash coursing it out. And one of the crash courses was talking about capitalism and consumerism and what that means. And it really had me thinking about like the different systems that are in place that cause us to look at things on an individual level as opposed to on a structural and systemic level. So, what we start doing is we start thinking about people as disposable, and we start thinking about people as means to an end. You know, we think about people as numbers or dollar signs or what we can get out of them. And that is what capitalism does. Like, capitalism is all about using human capital to be able to fuel the system. That's why there's so much focus on working and being productive at work and like doing all these things to limit work regulations, because the system benefits from this individualized understanding that we have. So I've been doing like research on that and just really trying to understand what it means and how it works and how it operates, because it's a lot. Like, it's a lot to understand, but it's also a lot to deprogram and help ourselves to break out of it, right? So when I started researching consumerism, consumerism in particular, I keep asking, right? And again, full transparency, I embrace minimalism as much as I possibly can. So at this point in life, all of my belongings fit in 3 suitcases and a backpack. And that is the way that I have chosen to live and conduct my life. You may not be here. Okay, so don't feel like you have to raise yourself to some different standard. I'm sharing my experience. So when I started studying consumerism, I was thinking about like, where did advertisements and all of that come from? Like, why are we having all of these like commercials? And honestly, I pay for YouTube Premium, so I don't have to have commercials. I haven't had a commercial or an ad that I have watched in I don't know how long. And I also can't tell you how much peace that brings me to not have that, because I now know how much like we in the US have been inundated with buy. But anyway, so when I was thinking about consumerism, it really started like in or hyped up and ramped up after World War II. But it started like in the production era. So when the Industrial Revolution happened and production became the way of life, again, the system is now using people to be able to create products for the wealthy class, for the haves. They started making too many products, and then because it was more than people needed to be able to live their lives, and also the people in the factories did not have the means to be able to buy the products that they were making anyway. So what happened was they started dropping the price on those products so that the workers were able to buy the products, and they would tell them that they needed the products because they would tell them they needed the products to be able to achieve this American dream, this idea of having the things that the haves had. So they dropped the price so they can access it, and then told them you need this even though they didn't. So consumerism came about, buying things and never feeling like it's enough, just always needing to have something else. And this is the new shiny thing that you need to get. And this is going to make you be like this person and da 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 da. Like that is how that all came about. And it feeds the system of capitalism in that the people who have the capital are the ones who are benefiting, while the working people experience the least amount of benefit as possible. And that system dehumanizes people because it places profits over people, because they don't care. Like, you're replaceable. It doesn't matter. Like, at any point, we can just be like, it's fine. You could go home today. And then next week, they hiring somebody else. Or you die. You done given 20 years to this place. You die. Baby, they got that seat filled in 2 weeks. Okay. Right after they orient somebody, they got somebody in there. So capitalism teaches us to think about people as resources, human resources, human capital. So capitalism does that. And then the partner in that is consumerism, in making us think that we need these things and we need to buy all these things so that we got a hole in our pocket. We're always giving out money. We're always putting it out, and it's never coming back to us because we don't make enough to really be able to save in the first place. So I was doing all that research and I was just like, oh my God, this is such a lot, because the people I don't think really know and understand what the systems are doing, because again, we get so involved in the microcosm of what is happening right in front of our faces. um and when I say right in front of our faces, I mean like in your immediate vision, your tunnel vision, if you will. We get caught up in that and we miss everything else that is happening around us because we are literally laser focused on those things. So I wanted to also layer that with understanding white supremacy culture on top of that, and racism and how that operates on top of that. So I have this graphic that I want to share. This graphic shows basically how these systems work, but also this is rooted in racism, but this works for any type of system. On the outside of this graphic are the different areas of life that are under government control. These are government systems that are operating. So we have banking, housing, criminal justice, public health, and education. So these are the systems that are operating in everybody's life who is in the public. So what happens is in the middle of this graphic are the ways that we can view the way that these systems work. So this first level is internalized, then interpersonal. So internalized, how does this system work regarding to me? Interpersonal, how does this system work regarding into dealing with other people? Institutional, how does this system work within organizations and institutions? And then systemic is how does this work and is maintained by society. So this particular graphic is based on racism and how racism works. So when we think about internalized racism, and the way that racism on top of capitalism, on top of consumerism, adds this special flavor to it. So, internalized is a race based belief and feelings within an individual. So, how this might have manifested and how it did manifest in my life is believing that I was pretty when my hair was straight, believing that proximity to whiteness is going to give me advantages and accesses that I otherwise wouldn't have. So those are race based feelings that were placed inside of me, that were living inside of me at a particular point in time. Right. Or that if I spoke a certain way, that it would deem me as more or less intelligent. That's internalized. Then interpersonal is how that looks and manifests towards other people. So this is where your bigotry and your biases show up between individuals through words and actions. So what that might have looked like, and this is also internalized as well, is I grew up in the say no to drugs era. I just did a deep dive on Ronald Reagan the other day. A lot. A lot. And his framework is what Trump is furthering. So this has been a long game. I just want us to know that. But anyway, I grew up in the say no to drugs era. At that time, we were conditioned to believe that if somebody was on drugs, that they yes, skin whitening creams advertised in India. Yes, that's an example of something that internalized racism would cause. Yes, that my dark skin is a hindrance to my life, which is true. So let me do something about that and try to do some type of assimilation. So interpersonal in the say no to drugs era, we were conditioned to believe that if somebody was on drugs, that they were lazy, that if somebody was on drugs, somebody was on welfare, somebody needed support, that it was because they were lazy or they weren't smart or they didn't try hard enough. They needed to pull themselves up out of bootstraps. That's when that type of thing really started becoming really, really pronounced. So, what that would look like is in my own life, I was very, very judgmental about people who had different life circumstances, different traumas that manifested. So in my early years, I would very much be like, you on drugs because you weak, or you don't have a home because you're too lazy to go have a job. Like it very much came across as that, as opposed to understanding the next phase is that there's institutional policies that are in place, discriminatory practices within organizations that are making it difficult for you to be able to access education, for you to be able to access healthcare, for you to be able to access a home that you're able to afford. There are institutional practices at place. I didn't understand that. So at the institutional level, and this is the place where a lot of people get stuck. So they aren't able to understand because we get stuck at the internalized things and the interpersonal. We're dealing on these individual levels. But above that is this institutional practice that is making sure that these things happen, redlining and only giving loans to certain type of people, and the school to prison pipeline of students that have discipline records often wind up in the criminal justice system. In education, the way that discipline is dealt with and turning schools into many correctional facilities as opposed to centers for students to learn and be creative. And then with that institution, there's the systemic part of that, which is maintained by society. So, because of all of this, now society has moved in a way to accept this as the norm. For example, they just came out with different color band-aids a few years ago and different color crayons a few years ago that mirrored all the myriad of different skin tones that are available in this world, as opposed to calling this peach color nude or flesh tone. That is only flesh tone for a certain amount of people. But growing up, we didn't have different colored band-aids. I didn't even know that band-aids was supposed to be flesh tone until just recently. I just thought that was the color of band-aids because they were plastic. But that's supposed to be flesh tone. Or thinking about one of the things I like to study are ballerinas and having point shoes that match the skin tone of the dancer. Because the whole point of a point shoe, pun intended, but tits. The whole point of a point shoe is that it's supposed to extend the line and not break the line. So the point shoe and the tights for ballet were historically pink because ballerinas were historically European. But then once Black and brown people started getting into ballet, now they are being expected to wear pink tights. That's not the seamless line. My skin is not pink. So systemically, the world moves in a way to be able to support those systems. I hope all of that made sense. So when I was thinking about that, I was like, we really have to understand the powers that are happening at these other levels so that we are able to put the anger, the righteous anger, where it belongs. Because we're fighting individual people when we're supposed to be fighting the systemic things that are happening that are causing all of us to behave in these ways. When people say this is a simulation, there are people, oligarchs, rich people, haves, billionaires that are sitting in places making decisions about our lives every day. And it's a game to them because their end goal is for them to make more money. Their end goal is not for people to be okay. And we have to understand that we are all being manipulated in that system. So, how do we take that power back? How do we say, I'm going to advocate for myself and I'm going to divest from this system that is throwing me every which way, just making sure that my life is as difficult as it can possibly be so that I can show up at their job to make them money? So I had mentioned the boycott earlier, and the thing with the boycott for me is I understand that boycotts are used to teach people how to take action because many people are not understanding what is happening. And again, it's not necessarily because they don't want to, it is because they are stuck in survival mode. And that is all that they really have capacities to even worry about is their day to day because they can't afford life. And then if they have kids, they have to be being responsible parents. And like, it's a lot. Life is a lot, right? So they depend on keeping us busy down here so that we're not looking at the things that are happening institutionally and structurally and systemically. So a boycott gets people to pause and think about their action. So with the Target boycott, it has been really successful in mobilizing people and also creating impact with the organization. I'm pinning that right there because I'm going to get back to that. But I think the other thing that we really have to be thinking about is the strategy. And that's the part that I don't feel is really coming across is the strategy and end goal. So for me, boycotting is about boycotting capitalism. I'm boycotting frivolous spending. I don't really and mind you, if I was in the States, I wouldn't be going to Target, right? I'm not the type of person who's crossing the picket lines, even though there are a lot of Black businesses that are in Target that have been very much destroyed by this boycott and will probably never have shelf space in a major retailer again, which is a whole nother thing. But because I'm not pro Target, I am pro critical thinking. Critical thinking is the piece in this that we're missing because we're just looking at things on this individual level. So boycotts, I understand, get people to take individual collective action. But we have to have a strategy and an end goal with that. And the end goal should be to divest from capitalism. It should be to divest from consumerism. It should be teaching us how to be self sustainable. teaching us how to release this lie of an American dream and actually think about what we really need to have that peace that I was talking about earlier. So there are a lot of moving pieces that go to it. And I think it's just really important to consider it all because it is all working together to our detriment. But we have the ability to be able to support ourselves in one, first, humanizing people and understanding each of us is in our own movie. Every single person is in their own movie, and every single person has things going on in their own movie that is consuming their brain space, whether they say it out loud or not. So, being able to have empathy for people, I think is incredibly important because, again, I go back to what happened to them, not what's wrong with them. A part of the deconstructive work that we can be doing is thinking about what empathy looks like for us and how can I at this individual level where I often am interacting with people, how can I show up in a way that is going to support others as opposed to furthering the harmful institutionalized and systemic things that are happening? How can I pause to think about, even if at the end of the day, I say that's not somebody that I want to interact with, can I still honor their human journey and appreciate that they did not come to this earth to be evil and that they may be evil because of their circumstances? Because of the parents that they were dealt, because of the schools that they went to, because of the movies that they watched. Like, this is another crash course I've been taking is on film and media, because we got to understand that that's propaganda. And what's so interesting is we were taught when we were in school that places like Russia and China were places that were using movies for propaganda. Meanwhile, we had movies like Gone with the Wind or books like Huckleberry Finn that made it very clear the way that people were viewing us. And it is all propaganda. I was telling Kalanda on So You Don't Put Syrup on Your Grilled Cheese this week that every war movie that is made has to be run through the government. I didn't know that. But they do that because they want to approve what's put out. It's propaganda. So, how can I, as an individual, realize okay, I may have gotten some faulty programming along the way? I may have made some decisions about people and the ways that people show up and the things that have happened to people in their lives based on faulty information. How can I look into and tap into their humanity to at least be like, I'm sorry that that happened to you because you are not a good person. Wow. Right. Again, it doesn't mean that I have to interact with them. Like the people that are down there celebrating that they're feeding immigrants, because you know they done started putting people down there at the alligator Alcatraz. They done started putting people in there, and they're saying that they don't have bathrooms. They're saying that the conditions are incredibly humane, that they don't have access to clean food and water. The people that are down there taking their children to go take pictures by alligator Alcatraz and are celebrating people being fed to alligators, like those people are evil people. Like, I want to be clear. And also, I think it's possible for us to unpack and hold space for how they got there to have that type of fucked up ass way of thinking. Because it's all wild. And it's not because of the individual, it's because of the system that programmed them to be that way. So, the soul work for this week is thinking about what empathy looks like in action for you and thinking about times that you may have dehumanized somebody and need to like unpack why that is, you know, as well as reflecting on times where you saw someone's humanity. Maybe there is an immigrant or a story that you've related to that you're like, man, that's interesting. Or maybe you kept on scrolling, right? But asking yourself how you're holding space for other people as well as holding space for yourself, because we also have been victim to this system, right? So holding space for yourself and your deprogramming of what that looks like and sounds like. And then what is one choice that you can make this week to step towards more empathy? What does that look like and sound like for you? So that is our soul work for the week.
What if the thing you've always called too much was the exact thing God designed on purpose? This is for the ones who've always known they were different. Too sensitive, too loud, too knowing, too intuitive, too woo woo. But what if your sensitivity is actually your superpower? What if your intuition was your inheritance? Discover Your Destiny is a 10-week sacred journey back to yourself. We explore the design of your soul, your spiritual gifts, and the unique way that God speaks to you. This isn't church. It's not a rule book. It's not a performance. It's the moment you stop chasing approval and start walking in divine alignment. You'll gain clarity, language, and confidence around who you are and what you are here on the earth to do. You'll learn the real voice of God. And if you feel called to go on to become a certified intuitive melanated life coach, this is where that path begins. There are 2 ways to enter this sacred container: the Destiny track, full investments and coaching experience, or the Divine Exchange track, where internship meets soul work. You'll support podcasting, content creation, or brand development behind the scenes while learning how your unique gifts benefit the collective. Your knowing isn't a flaw, it's the fingerprint of God. This is your invitation, and I hope that you'll answer.
I told y'all I had some things I wanted to say. I have some unpopular opinions that I want to share about some things. And it's based in the US. So, y'all know I'm from New Orleans. And just this past weekend, 4th of July weekend, they have a huge music festival called the Essence Festival. And the Essence Festival is sponsored by a magazine called Essence Magazine, and it's one of the oldest Black magazine publications in the US. There were a few. There's Essence, Ebony, Jet. So these were some of the Black magazines where we as Black people were able to see ourselves growing up. They highlighted our stories, all of that. Out of Essence Magazine was birthed this Essence Music Festival. And the Essence Fest has been happening since forever, like since I was a kid. I want to say this is like the 30th year, maybe, that it has been happening. And basically, it happens in 2 parts. So there are empowerment seminars that happen in the morning and during the day, and that happens at the convention center in New Orleans. And then there's also a concert at night where they have an amazing lineup and all of these artists that come, and they call it a party with a purpose. All right. So Essence Fest happened this past week. And in full transparency, the last time that I went to Essence was in 2022. So I haven't been back since then. But I did experience Essence pre-COVID and post-COVID. I also did a story on Essence in 2023 when I was with Beautiful Brown Girls, because Essence was coming under a lot of scrutiny because of the ways that they were doing local businesses in New Orleans and the way that they were showing up and taking advantage of people that are from New Orleans, right? Now, remember what I just talked about when I was talking about capitalism and the way that things work, like the internalized, the interpersonal, the institutional, the systemic, right? This goes into play here. We're not talking about racism per se, but we're talking about capitalism. Essence is a business, and businesses are in business to make money. And I think it's important for us, especially as Black people, to know that Black faces in high places do not save us. There was a commencement speech at Spelman College some years ago, a couple years ago. Her line was, "Black faces in high places will not save us."
Black faces in high places are not going to save us. Just look at the Black woman's hand, ambassador at the UN, voting against a ceasefire in Gaza. That is, our Blackness and our womanness are not in themselves trustworthy. If we allow ourselves to be conscripted into positions of power that maintain the oppressive status quo, our Blackness and womanness are not themselves trustworthy if we support the occupation of Black neighborhoods with so-called better trained police, or remain silent about the genocide of oppressed peoples around the world funded by our tax dollars. What kind of sister ancestors are we going to be? Successful and compliant, or purposeful and courageous? That is, we are our descendants' wildest dreams. Each of us has the privilege and responsibility of answering that for ourselves honestly and joyously.
I think it's important for us to understand that, because a lot of times we think just because an organization is Black, that it is always going to have our best interest at heart. So I want to say that. But I also want to say that Essence has had a change in leadership over the past few years. And their CEO, her name is Caroline Wanga, Wanga. There's been a lot of scrutiny about the way that she has led Essence and the things that she has done, the decisions that have been made. Now, I will say in all fairness that she was not present for this year's Essence Fest because she was on leave. Apparently, she has written a book and she is out touring for her book. Caroline also used to be at Target, interestingly enough. So, anyway, she wasn't there this year. They also have had a vice president of Essence who was from New Orleans, who went to high school in New Orleans, but he was actually the person that was in charge of a lot of the things that happened when I did this story in 2023. So he's not there anymore. So I don't know who's in charge. Okay. So I just said all that to say I'm talking to Essence at large. Okay. So the scrutiny this year has been about Essence being extremely disorganized. First of all, it was very clear that as many people were not there, that the crowd was much lighter than it had been in the past. And there was a lot of conversation about that. But there was also conversation about it being very disorganized. So usually what would happen is Essence always happens July 4th weekend. So probably around April, maybe March sometimes, they would release the lineup so that people could start buying their tickets, because people would buy packages. So you go Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. And again, you have all these amazing artists that you can see. Well, they hadn't been releasing the lineup later and later and later along the way. So that was one of the critiques. Then there were also critiques about it just being incredibly disorganized as far as dissemination of information and accessing different things they had. So back in my day, pre-COVID, so there's a main stage in the Superdome, in the actual arena. Okay, so that's where the biggest names will perform. Then they would have super lounges, which were kind of like loungy vibes. So probably about the size of like a club, probably. And they would have artists perform in the super lounges as well. And usually those were artists that did not necessarily have enough pull yet to be on the main stage. So super lounge concerts would be going on, as well as main stage concerts would be going on. So you kind of had your pick. If you wanted to see somebody and have a more intimate setting, you could go to the super lounge and you were good to go. So then the Superdome apparently did renovations. So then they got rid of super lounges because those areas weren't available. So then everything was on the main stage. Now, the super lounges allowed there to be even more artists because there were 4 different super lounges. So there would be 4 mini concerts going on and 1 big concert. And each of those stages would have 3 to 4 performers on each stage, right? So that's a lot of people that you're able to see in one night, granted, or a lot of people that are available to be able to be seen. So removing the super lounges causes an issue because now you only have the main stage. Well, this year they brought back the super lounges, but they made it VIP. So there were only a limited number of tickets that were only available to a limited number of people. Now, in the past, the super lounges came with admission. So you go to the concert, you got main stage and you got super lounge. You don't have to pay anything extra to be able to access any of that. Now, super lounges were charged. So Essence honored that they messed that up. They put out a post and they were like, our bad. We messed up on the super lounge tip. We're gonna try to do better next time. But then people started writing open letters to Essence. So there are two open letters that came out to Essence over this time. So one is by Stephanie Mills. Now, Stephanie Mills, she's been around for a while. Let me just say that. Stephanie Mills is the one who sang the song. I actually have a video on my Instagram of me singing this song. I think of home, I think of a place where there's love overflowing. I wish I was home. I wish I was back there with the things I've been knowing. So anyway, that's Stephanie Mills. And so she performed at Essence Fest. And she wrote an open letter because this is the thing that happened. Lauryn Hill was there as well. And the night that Lauryn Hill performed, she did not get on stage until 2:30 in the a.m. She was supposed to go on stage at 12:30 a.m., but she did not get on stage till 2:30 in the a.m. And so her set went until 3:30 in the morning.
Lauryn Hill is finally addressing her embarrassing moment at Essence Fest over the weekend, as well as critics saying she's always late to her performances. Now, of course, this all stems from reports of Hill performing at Essence festivals over the weekend, where the event allegedly ran nearly 2 hours behind, meaning Hill didn't take to the stage well into the morning around 2:30 a.m. Now, after media headlines began running stories playing into the narrative, on their Instagram, Essence would go on to share images of Lauryn Hill's performance with a caption that read, "Family is family, and around here we protect our own no matter what people have to say. Let's be very clear, we don't play about Miss Lauryn Hill. Not for clicks, not for headlines. She arrived on schedule, stepped on that stage, and delivered the kind of performance only a legend can. The delay, not hers. We will take that. The moment, one for the books. The legacy, still unmatched. Put some respect on her name, keep the takes, but keep her out of them. All love and deep, profound admiration for Miss Lauryn Hill." Now, just after Essence would release that statement, Hill would follow that up with her own on Instagram. "Thank you, Essence, for clarifying that the delays were not my fault. Family, let me address a few things. I am involved in every aspect of what it takes to put on my shows because it requires that much involvement to protect the integrity of my message and the quality of what I do. And for this reason, I rehearse and arrange the music diligently with my band. I am involved in every aspect of design, preparation, and production of my shows, while also being a parent, grandparent, and steward to my immediate family and community. While some get to focus on a single discipline or category, my role requires that I have eyes everywhere and contribute to most, if not every, department and more. I do this without complaint because it is truly a labor of love and great passion for me to be able to perform meaningful music for my audience. There seems to be a misconception out there, though, that I am somewhere on the Riviera with my feet up, drink in hand, showing up to concerts whenever because I'm too important to care. That's nonsense, and anyone who's been a part of these productions knows that, in fact, the opposite is true. Those of us who are still out here grinding to present an alternative to the divisive, to the shallow, to the controlled, and to the intentionally limiting narrative of our representation do what it takes to do so. We are here pushing through the resistance. Ask yourself, how and why am I still standing after years of public effort to defame me? Because someone has to do it. Now, to continue the statement, it will go on to say, this is not the first time production delays have delayed my performances. This is, however, the first time a promoter has acknowledged a slip up on their end. Thank you, Essence. And this will be the last time I allow production challenges to look like the fault is mine alone, when they aren't. Those of you can no longer extend me grace. I'm okay with that because it's not your grace that sustains me, it's God's grace that sustains me, and the love of the fans who appreciate that my message came for them when they needed it most, and know that I was probably punished for being so honest in the midst of big business. Hill would go on to end her statement by issuing a new warning to media outlets saying, "Media, fact check and watch what you irresponsibly put out there. There are consequences for misrepresenting the facts. Despite the late start, I appreciate those who stayed and rocked with us. Family, always remember, what the enemy means for evil, God will return around for good. Respectfully, MLH."
Let me tell you what ain't never supposed to happen is for no concert to go from 4 to 4 a.m. And mind you, Essence starts at 7 p.m. The concert, the first artist starts at 7 p.m. And the last artist to get off stage at 4 a.m. is you crazy. Is you crazy? So that had happened, right? And that's what was happening behind the scenes. Well, Lauryn Hill, people always want to like be on that same old trope that she was late and she didn't show up and all this. So now people talk about Lauryn Hill like, oh, she's being late again. This ain't got nothing to do with her being late. This is about Essence not being organized. So Stephanie Mills, the R&B diva, okay, performed on the last night, and that was Sunday. So in her letter, I'm looking at it here. She said, "I'm writing to share my feedback following my performance at this year's Essence Festival." She began adding that while she was appreciative of the platform, her performance was marred by significant production issues that negatively impacting both my performance and the artist's experience as a whole. She continued, "The challenges I encountered were multifaceted and, in my view, indicative of broader organizational shortcomings. The scheduling and time management were severely lacking, creating a chaotic and stressful environment backstage. This disorganization cascaded onto the stage, impacting the flow of the event and ultimately diminishing the quality of the performances." She insisted that technical issues were persistent, adding, "This lack of technical preparedness is unacceptable for an event of Essence Festival's caliber and prestige." She later added that the overall level of professionalism fell far short of the standards I expect from such a highly regarded festival. So that was just snippets from her letter that she wrote. I still say I will fall asleep at 11. You understand me? I'm out of here. There is no way. My social battery is done. Right. But because the concert be lasting so long, a lot of times people don't wind up coming until like 10 or 11. So they take a nap and then they come at like 10 or 11 because, for instance, they want to see Lauryn Hill. She's supposed to go on stage at 12:30, right? But she's not coming out till 2:30. I want you to think about how unfair this is to artists who are at work. The artists that come at 7 p.m., nobody is there because the people that buy out the floor are companies, and companies give out those tickets. Again, because people want to see certain people, they not coming fresh off at the beginning. So the floor is very empty. So you're standing in a stadium where there's nobody on the floor, and the closest people are the people that are in the stands, and you can't even see them. Number one. Number two, if I'm scheduled to start my performance at 12:30, I have managed my energy for that. You mean to tell me that I don't get to go on stage until 2:30? And people are not the audience. You think the audience is still there at 4 o'clock in the freaking morning? Come on, y'all. We got to do better than this, right? So Stephanie Mills wrote the letter. Then there was a Master P. Now, mind you, I grew up in the days of Master P. You hear me? No Limit Records, yo. No Limit Soldier. I thought I told you. No Limit Soldier. I thought I told you. I am very much a Master P fan. Okay. So Master P, apparently this was his retirement party from the way that people done explained it, that he bringing out all of these people that were and were not affiliated with him throughout his career as a music artist. Okay. And one of the people that people were looking for was a rapper named Mia X. Now, Mia X started out local, you know what I mean? But she was with No Limit. So she came out with the first time probably that I think they went like viral, if you will, was Make 'Em Say. And Mia X was on that. All right. But I know Mia X from back in the day. I came here tonight to settle the score. Females or women and girls. Not tramps and hoes. Okay, so Mia X used to have this song called Payback Time. So what up, get up, come on, what up, get up, come on, what up, get up. Okay, so anyway, if you're not from New Orleans, you probably never heard it.
I came here tonight to settle the score, females or women and girls. Now tramps and hoes to all your brothers that's stunting off them weak whack rhymes. It's payback time. So what up, get up, boot up, come on, what up, get up, boot up, come on, what up, get up.
But anyway, so Mia X is affiliated with Master P. However, child, Mia X wrote a letter. And so basically what happened is they had made a flyer where they were advertising that they were going to have this Master P performance. I don't think they called it a retirement party, but they probably called it a tribute. So Mia X said they reached out to her late and she ultimately declined the performance, but they had already started advertising her and using her image on the flyers to say that she was going to be there at this performance. Then she told them, hey, I'm not coming to the performance. I need y'all to take my face off of there because people going to be looking for me and I'm not going to be there. And this has been last minute anyway. I'm booked and busy, whatever she said. Okay. So they told her, all right, girl, we're going to take your name off and we're going to take your face off. They did not. They kept her face on there. Okay, so they advertising that she gonna be there, and she like, I ain't never said I was gonna be there. Then when she asked them about it again, they told her that they kept her on there because Master P said it was okay. So Mia X said, Master P don't speak for me. What are you talking about? He said it was going to be okay. He is not my manager. We don't have any type of contract for him to say where my likeness and my name is able to be used. What are you talking about right now? But Essence never took it down. So people went to the Master P retirement party thinking Mia X was going to be there, and she was never going to be there because they used her name and face and likeness without her permission. So that happened. So there are people who are doing these think pieces about Essence and talking about, let me just play it. Let me just play the video. Now, I want y'all to know this particular creator, I really like her. Like, I really like her platform and she does some amazing work. Her name is Sierra and the name of her business is called Cage Bird HR. So she works with individuals in HR, because if you do or do not know, HR, human resources, is on behalf of the company. It is not for them to be able to help the worker. So Sierra and her company do work to help the individual people who are caught up in situations. So anyway, she made this video where she was talking about Essence. So let me play this and then I'm going to say what I got to say.
I want to talk about how Black women are more ambitious but less supported. And we're going to talk about it in the context of Essence Fest, because I don't like this conversation. Okay, we're going to start from the top. People are not spending money. They are not. People are scared they're going to get yanked up by ice. People are scared of climate change is going to cause some catastrophic natural event that's going to ruin their homes. People are scared that their jobs are going to be replaced by supercomputers. Even Coachella is not selling tickets at the level they was selling tickets. Okay, but you know what Coachella isn't dealing with? Sponsors pulling out of their events, because we are in a very racist time right now. And it is no longer acceptable to support Black shit, to support DEI. Essence has lost 2/3 of their sponsors, baby. They lost McDonald's. For context, when I get pitched for these events, they're telling me it's $50,000 for square footage on a carpet, and they'll throw in a 6-foot table as a little razzle dazzle. And that's for one brand. If I want to do Cage Bird and Workers, it's 100 beans. So you know McDonald's is bringing hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they lost 2/3 of their sponsors. That means these people are making $1 out of 15 cents. And that money, that goes to marketing and that goes to talent, because talent has to be paid in advance and a lot of times up front, even to save the date. So the good folks down at Essence are doing 100% of the work with 1/3 of the money. And y'all are on this internet talking about, I miss the Essence of 2003. Well, transport your Black ass back there. And if you figure out a way, take me with you, because we're not in 2003 anymore. We are in hell. We're in hell. So any Black, anything that gets pulled off is a motherfucking miracle. Black-owned businesses cannot afford to take 4 years off. You are witnessing people making a way out of no way. You are witnessing the spirit of our ancestors figuring it out. I got on the internet, everybody got their goodie bags. Y'all was down there at the Target activation. Y'all wasn't complaining about that. The mics was on, the talent was there. Maybe a little bit late, but they was present.
So let me pause it there for a second and also correct a couple things. So Essence, yes, has lost sponsors. They did not lose McDonald's. McDonald's was very much there, as well as Target. And again, I'm gonna get to them in a second. But also sometimes we have to accept when things are needing to be scaled down. And I don't know what their contracts look like, if they, have been contracted to have the Superdome and have to have the full of the convention center or what have you. But I definitely think it's time to start thinking about scaling down. That's number one. Number two, just because something is Black does not mean that it is above critique. But I mentioned that I did a story on Essence in 2023 about how they were treating Black businesses and small businesses in New Orleans. What Essence has done is they have instituted a 5-mile radius around the CBD, so the Central Business District of New Orleans, during Essence Festival. So if anybody tries to do any type of event within a 5-mile radius, they are having to be charged, or their event is being served cease and desist, and it's a lot of policing that's happening. Now, granted, New Orleans is a place where festivals and things be happening. The Sugar Bowl happens in New Orleans all the time. There are countless conferences and things that happen in New Orleans. The Super Bowl has been in New Orleans. Even during those times, there is no type of radius penalty that is assessed to small businesses. The reason I had done the story in 2023 is because Essence was saying that they had a special place carved out for small businesses, small local owned businesses. And what they did is, instead of putting them in the convention center where there is air conditioning, because also this is New Orleans, it's hot as fuck. It's hot as fuck in New Orleans. Okay. It's hot and it's humid. So instead of them giving them a place in the convention center, because there was a discounted table rate, because you just heard Sierra say it's like $50,000 to be able to get a space on the carpet, right? So it's really, really expensive to be a vendor at Essence. So they had this reduced rate to be able to support local businesses. But what they did is they put them outside. They put them outside with no access to the things that they needed. The access to electricity was not really there. So they couldn't really have their own fans and all that kind of stuff, but also it's outside. They didn't have appropriate signage for people to be able to know that they were there. They didn't have clear directions for people to know how to find them. It was very much an afterthought, like, damn, here type of situation. So without that context, it's very easy for us to be like, well, they're doing the best they can. But also, just because you're doing the best you can don't mean that you're doing well. And it doesn't mean that you're doing right by people. And what is happening is they are not doing right by people. And that needs to be fixed, and that needs to be addressed, because Essence is touting that they are for the Black people. So then you don't get to do that and then also come into a city and mess over the Black people that are there in the city. That's not how that works. So they need to figure out how they're going to show up for the people and also be more organized in this festival. All of this critique is very much well deserved, because it's been a mess and they really need to fix it. So the other thing that people was talking about was Target, and that Target was there. Now, Target is one of Essence's biggest sponsors. And again, there is a boycott of Target right now in the Black community. So they were talking about Target. But then the conversation became, well, first of all, Target has been doing a lot. And I'm about to get a video about that in a second. But Target showed up in pink, and their signature color is red, right? So they showed up in pink. And Target has like really doubled down and moved away from their DEI support and all of that, right? So there's just been a lot of conversation about Target. So then the conversation at Essence specifically was like, if Target is here and they're giving away free products, what is the harm in taking these free products? If they're giving away full-size bottles of shampoo and conditioner and hair cream, I'm going to get it. I'm sorry. I'm going to get it because it is free and it is not costing me anything. So I am not supporting them by taking this stuff, and it's going to help my bottom line. So me, Kimberlyn, I'm going to get it. I'm just saying that publicly. Okay, y'all could tell me what you think in the comments. But the other thing that I think we really have to, again, think critically about when it comes to Target is about the strategy that Target has been using. Now, I will say Target has completely clusterfucked things now. I don't know how they come back from what they have done, but I do want to shed a little bit of light on what I believe that Target was attempting to do and what the communication is that we got from people that were actually affiliated with Target. So this is a video by Sakita Holly. She is a PR strategist. She's also somebody that I had on Beautiful Brown Girls before. And she really kind of broke it down of thinking about why Target did what they did. So I'm going to play this video and then I'll tell you my thoughts about it afterwards. And then we're going to get out of here. Okay.
A lot of people feel just like this, and unfortunately for Target, perception is reality. In January, all of the headlines said Target rolls back diversity initiative. Full stop. That is the perception that persists today. Consumers said, you're just gonna give into this administration and turn your back on us? You ain't gotta worry about it, sweetheart. I'm gonna take my money and I'm gonna go play somewhere else, right? Perception. Because I am a publicist and a brand marketer and I've been doing this work for over 15 years, that did not make sense to me. Why would Target, one of the top retailers, top corporate entities that has been a champion of not just Black consumers in the Black community, but literally everybody for years, they've been at the forefront. Why would they do this? And why now?
I went to the website in January to see what the actual announcement was, right? It was released on a Friday afternoon. It was a memo. It wasn't even an official press release. I printed it out. I'm going to put it on the screen. But I remember reading this being like, okay, something's up. So here's what it said. I'm not going to read everything. Concluding our 3-year diversity, equity, and inclusion goals, vague. Concluding our racial equity action and change reach initiatives in 2025 as planned. This was something they championed in 2020, 2021, so maybe it was a 5-year plan, vague. Ensuring our employee resource groups are fully focused on development and mentorship. The communities continue to be open to all, meaning they're not making any changes there. Evaluating corporate partnerships, no changes. Stopping all external diversity focused surveys. That's a very specific one, but it's administrative, right? They're not going to submit their data for the surveys. Cool. Questionable, but okay. Evolving our supplier diversity team to supplier engagement. This is what they did. Now let's talk about it. Shout out to you if you're still here. In 2023, Target was sued by a conservative group led by Stephen Miller, who is in the Trump administration. This is the same ring of groups that got affirmative action overturned at the Supreme Court. Target was sued for their Pride collection. They ended up making a lot of changes. They ended up pulling things off the shelf. And I believe with Trump back in office, Target was trying to make themselves less of a target, pun intended, for the administration. So they figured, how can we continue to do what we've been doing, but do it in a way that doesn't draw attention from the administration to us? And that's where you get supplier diversity changed to supplier engagement without much change. That's where you get things like, we won't report our administrative data to these surveys. That's where you get this statement. And it's also where they went wrong, because they underestimated the consumer response, because consumers aren't going to play the semantics with you.
Basically, what Sakita is saying is that Target tried to get ahead of things and they tried to fly under the radar, go underground, if you will, ahead of all the scrutiny that they knew was about to come. And the reason why I resonate with that is because I work with organizations that are doing that exact thing. There are several organizations, especially organizations that are part of that public sector. So when I showed that graphic earlier, housing and banking and education and healthcare, organizations that are a part of the public sector are actively behind the scenes thinking about the wording that they're using. They're combing through their policies and taking out particular words and replacing them with others. And I have personally had conversations with people and been like, we have to become more covert about how we are showing up in spaces. And we have to become more covert about how we are naming things. So I still work in educational spaces. What I know is that I cannot go into those spaces DEIing it up. But that doesn't mean that I'm not still going to be pushing for advocating for all students, pushing for thinking about how students' brains operate, creating safe environments. I'm still doing that work. I may just not be using the particular words. And what I fear that happened with Target is there was a reactionary response. And what I've heard people say, because I've been asking this question consistently, of why Target, and why are we also not saying that we need to divest from consumerism, such as Walmart and Amazon. And people say things like, well, Target, was the company that was supposed to show up for us, and they had made all these promises, and they had did this and all that. And I get that. And also, it doesn't mean that they stopped. So I think it's important for us to ask good questions to understand what is actually happening behind the scenes. Because if we are going to survive, and first of all, somebody had me, I think it was in Sierra's video, and she was like, the next 4 years, this is going to be longer than 4 years. I also need us to accept that this is going to be much longer than a 4-year situation. There is not going to be another presidential election in 4 years. If there is, it is going to be rigged just like this one was. Okay, so go ahead on and mark my words. Today is July 9th, 2025. There is not going to be another election. Okay. So anyway, if we're going to survive this, then we have to really understand how to work within the system. So that means that if I have to go underground or I have to go covert to be able to ensure that I'm still able to show up for the demographic that I'm committed to, then I may have to make adjustments on the outside that cover me so that I continue in the backstage doing what needs to be done. Now, I've heard people say things like, well, we want support out loud. Are y'all not reading the room? Do y'all not see what is happening? And people are citing companies like Ben & Jerry's and Delta Airlines, which they also just had a situation the other day. Costco, they're citing companies like that, which is fair. Okay, but also I want y'all to see how those companies are shifting too, because I promise you they are. Because the way that this organization, this administration, this regime is taxing people and weaponizing federal funds and like all of that, there are consequences for people standing up and saying, I'm gonna do this out loud. But that doesn't mean that they aren't doing things behind the scenes. We need both, is my point. We need both. We need people that are able to stand up and say, fuck you in your face. And we need people that are behind the scenes that are able to pull the strings to help things move forward. So I just want us to be critical about that and thinking about for me, it is about intentionality and strategy. So make sure that you're not getting caught up in the reaction of it all. It's very easy to be reactionary and just be like, oh, they did this. They need to pay and da. Okay, that's fine. That's cool. And also, do you understand the bigger context of what's actually happening? Because that is how things are going to have to be moving. I myself am adjusting the way that I show up in public spaces because I know that the work that I do behind the scenes is much more important. I literally went on my Instagram page the other day and was like, okay, I need to get rid of this video. I need to take this video down. I need to take this one down. Because what I know is that the work that I'm doing is more important than me advertising the work that I'm doing. The advertisement now comes at a person-to-person basis. It comes in those closed circles. It comes in those safe spaces, right? I need us to strategize and think about what is happening and move beyond this place of immediate anger and reaction. We got to be proactive and we have to strategize. So in Target, I think in essence, I don't know if they are continuing to be committed. Honestly, I feel like they have shifted. I saw they did some type of brand deal with Kai Cenat, which I got to talk about that young man at another time because that generation is a lot. I've sung his praises a lot, but I've also critiqued him a lot. But anyway, they did some kind of live or sleepover or something with Kai Cenat and his AMP group in Target. So what Target has now doing apparently is skipping over this generation, millennials and Gen X and the boomers, I guess, skipped over them and said, let's go to the young people and let's target them. Because you know what the thing is with the young people, they don't know all this stuff. They're not learning about the things that have happened historically in school. So they don't understand what the big hullabaloo is. Right. They're like, it's fine. It's Target, right? Because they don't understand the context, the greater context. But what we have done a poor job of doing is making it very clear for them. We need to give them context. We need to be showing up and mentoring them. Now, granted, I've heard some of them don't listen, but that's not all of them. There are some of them that actually do listen and are looking for guidance. So our job is to give them the context so that they are able to take that within their context and make it make sense. Okay. So I wanted to say that. Now, I'm about to run out of time, so I'm not going to be able to get into this, but I am going to save this for next episode. It's some protests that's been happening in Mexico City. And I want to talk about next time about, for those of you who are looking to immigrate to another country, of how to do that ethically, because there's a lot of impact that happens when people immigrate to a place. And many people are immigrating into Mexico and treating it like a little America, and they're going with this colonizing attitude. So next episode, I will uplift that of what's happening in Mexico City and the impacts of gentrification and all of that. So having said that, y'all, thank y'all. Please do go to tinyurl.com/Black Women Healing Circle to register for the Healing Circle. And that way you will be able to get connected to me, to the community, be able to get some strategies for how to stabilize your nervous system, give yourself the peace that you deserve so that you are able to operate from the place of your upper brain. The other thing that I wanted to share is, again, an invitation into the inner circle. And the inner circle is the Patreon. That is a place that you are able to come and get understanding, be seen, be heard, have access. I mentioned earlier, I may do a special like plant medicine course or something to be able to support people. So the inner circle is $5 a month. It is very much appreciated if you choose to join me there. It is a place for you to be able to reflect and grow and connect. All right. So thank y'all again for being here. Let me leave you with our closing quote. And today's quote is by Bell Hooks. And it says, "The function of love is to make justice real." So I want to remind us that choosing humanity over consumption is radical, is revolutionary, and it's rooted in love. So I challenge you to go and see people and see what their life movie looks like and practice using that empathy. Again, if you are watching a replay, please let me know in the comments what resonated with you. If you are here during the live, I love you so much. I appreciate you so much. Y'all are the best. I'll see y'all next week. All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Frolicking Truth, where joy meets justice and our nervous systems get free. Please be sure to like, rate, and comment. Subscribe to the YouTube page, Minding My Black Ass Business, and follow me on all social platforms. Until next time.